You guys are crazy!
You're an animal. Get a job.
To say something like that to myself and all of my colleagues is way out of line. It's way out of line. It's way out of line.
Regular order, Mr.
Way out of line.
Regular order.
That's okay. But it's okay, right?
That is not how it
It's
goes.
okay, right?
You hold yourself accountable before you talk about
Hold
Washington,
myself
D.C.
accountable.
Mr. Lee.
Washington, D.C.
Hold your own self accountable. How about that? Hold your own
I'm
self
trying,
accountable.
Mr.
How about that?
What you just witnessed is the perfect case of how it started versus how it's going. Once upon a time, Rashida Clay was a protester being dragged out of a government building while screaming at officials. Fast forward to today, and we have Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib still screaming at officials, still shouting accusations like fascist, only now she does it with a government salary and a taxpayer-funded microphone. Nothing has changed except the platform. The theatrics stayed. Only the stage got bigger. This isn't passion. It's a repeated pattern of outrage over evidence, hysteria over facts, emotional slogans over substance. When lawmakers abandon reason in favor of radical talking points, someone eventually has to step up and bring reality back into the room. And that's exactly what Byron Donalds does. In the clip we're about to break down, Tlaib delivers her fantasy version of America full of accusations, fear tactics, and ideological drama. Then Byron Donalds steps in with cold, hard facts. No shouting. No emotional spiraling. Just receipts. She brings name-calling. He brings data. So stick around, because we're about to unpack the entire exchange, moment by moment. And if you're ready to cut through the theatrics and get to the truth, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe. Let's get into it.
I think it's also really important to understand, like, the incredible kind of slanderous, like, defamation. I don't know what to call it. They're just burying Washington, D.C. You just heard them speak about our nation's capital in that way, in a way that I feel very much like that's not what I see. I see people walking around with their families, people enjoying time to see these beautiful, incredible, beautiful monuments and everything. And there's a pride here, too. And so I just want to bring the D.C. residents into this committee, because I feel like they are being made invisible. And this really ugly picture that is not reflective. And I'm from Detroit. I've seen it happen to my city, and it's despicable in a way that I feel like really goes up against our values. One of the things that I know in every abuse of power that we let President Trump and the administration get away with in D.C., it will be replicated. It will be expanded across the country, and it is going to tear apart our communities. Mr. Jackson, I talked to you about a little bit about this, but I think it's important to understand that we do have a mental health crisis, that we have a housing crisis, affordability crisis. Can you police any of those away?
No.
You can't police away homelessness. And the way they talk about our homeless neighbors is no wonder there's violence increasing towards homeless neighbors. I see it already, the brutality of it. When we see housing costs go up, when we see, again, the lack or dismissiveness of the mental health crisis that we continue to grow. And it's not just this administration, and the previous administrations as well. No one has moved with the urgency that is needed. Just last week, the committee approved over a dozen bills regarding Washington, D.C. And, I'm just curious. Criminalize children. My colleague from Boston talked about this. It basically interfered with legislation already passed by the local government. Was anyone on this panel consulted? Any of you? Raise your hand if you were consulted on any of these bills. Yeah.
We were not.
One of the things that, AG, I've been listening to you. One of the bills actually eliminates your position completely. What effect would that have? Completely eliminating your position in regards to be able to do the job that you do to protecting all the families in Washington, D.C.?
We'll start with the fact that more than 70% of the residents of the District of Columbia overwhelmingly voted for having an independent elected attorney general.
That's right.
And that's a recognition of the fact that when an attorney general is directly accountable to the people, directly responsive to the people, we are much better at doing our job in terms of addressing housing affordability and conditions. And
Wow, just wow. The difference between a serious leader grounded in reality and a professional activist addicted to theatrics couldn't be clearer than in that exchange. What we just witnessed was not merely a disagreement, it was a direct clash between two completely different worlds, two competing visions of America playing out on the congressional stage. On one side, we have Rashida Tlaib's fantasy version of the country, a world she describes through emotional lenses rather than facts. She steps up to the microphone, climbs onto her rhetorical soapbox, and goes on about how offensive it is for anyone to criticize Washington. D.C. she calls critiques slanderous, labels differing opinions as defamation, and insists that what she sees when she walks through the city are peaceful families, patriotic monuments, and an America that is just fine. She literally says, "That's not what I see," as if her personal perception is proof that no one else is suffering or struggling. But of course she doesn't see the problem. She lives in a political fantasy world where policies have no consequences and taxpayer burdens don't matter as long as they align with a radical narrative. In her reality, emotions override economics, slogans replace solutions, and the moment anyone raises a concern or dares to question her ideology, she responds not with reason or evidence but with volume, outrage. And overused buzzwords like fascism sound familiar. It should. It's the same activist mindset she had years ago when she was literally dragged out of government proceedings for disruptive behavior. The only change now is that rather than being outside protesting, she's doing the same thing from inside Congress with a taxpayer-funded microphone and congressional immunity protecting her from accountability. She's not governing, she's performing.
Slumlords, seniors and consumers are being scammed, addressing the issues that are most important to D.C. residents because I am accountable to them.
I read wage theft is an issue, workplace discrimination. I mean, there's a number of issues that need to be addressed, and they're not going to address that. They want to paint you all as this ugly, dark, all just out in the street. I mean, the way it's just unbelievable because they all live here. I don't see it. I don't see what they see. I don't understand why we're allowing that to happen because I actually think it's going to hurt our communities. People are going to look at Washington, D.C. folks in a way that I think is going to be very painful, but also, you know, I don't know, Mr. Jackson, I heard the stories. People didn't leave their homes. They weren't leaving their homes. Businesses didn't see people coming into, I mean, that's what we want in our nation's capital. Stay in your house. Don't move. Don't go anywhere. Stay fearful. It's unbelievable that my colleagues continue again to eject this narrative and this rhetoric in regards to it. But I think it's important, Mr. Chair, just like in D.C. Home Rule was won out of Black freedom struggle in the fight for civil rights, we can't be passive right now. So nobody over there should take anything we say like so personally as if we're attacking them. No, we're attacking a process. We're not attacking people here. And I think it's really important. We need to stand up against this fascist takeover. That's not a bad word. It's a fact. And here in D.C. and across the country, it is so incredibly important, Mr. Chair, that this committee does not allow rhetoric that defames and or paints Washington, D.C. in a way that you all haven't really truly seen. You're just reading it. No, you're just reading it or something off of some.
Will the gentlelady yield to a question?
Yeah, I think it's really important.
Will the gentlelady yield?
No, I don't yield. I don't even have time. I can tell you.
Your time's expired.
It is expired, but Mr. Chair, but you all live here, and you're not telling people the beautiful parts that you do see in our nation's capital. And no, it's just wrong how we're doing it.
Chairman, I think it's insane that the gentlelady doesn't have an argument, but she's going to refer to me and some of my colleagues.
Mr. Donald,
we were from the Third Reich. This is insane. It's insane.
It's insane.
It's insane. Do I look like a member of the Third Reich to you, Ms. Tlaib? Is that what I look like to you?
You're the one taking your voting card.
Is that what you think? Is that what you think? Is that what you think?
No, that's unethical.
I think it's radical and I think it's insane. And I'll respect everything that you say. But to say something like that to myself and a lot of my colleagues is way out of line. It's way out of line. It's way out of line.
Regular order, Mr.
Way out of line.
Regular order.
That's okay. But it's okay, right?
That is not how it goes.
It's okay, right?
You hold yourself accountable before you talk about
Hold myself accountable. Hold your own self accountable. How about that? Hold your own self accountable. How about that? Thank you, Chairman. This is my third term on the Oversight Committee. We've been talking about illegal immigration and oversight the entire time. I remember we had a group of this committee that went down to the El Paso section of the border. This was back in February, March of 2021. And during that time period, we were at one of the holding centers, and there were these buses that were coming to the detention facility, and they were picking up 30 kids, 50 kids.
And then on the other side, starkly contrasting the emotional meltdown, we have Congressman Byron Donalds. And this is the part the mainstream media refuses to showcase because it completely exposes the hollowness of her arguments. While Tlaib is screaming about imaginary fascist takeovers and playing the role of emotional martyr, Byron Donalds is calmly laying out facts, numbers, and undeniable consequences of her own preferred policies. He doesn't talk about pretty buildings or how inspiring it feels to walk past monuments. He talks about hard costs, measurable impact, and the real price American citizens are forced to pay for reckless sanctuary city policies that people like Tlaib aggressively promote. He specifically points out the staggering $6.9 billion being spent in New York City alone to subsidize these open-door immigration policies. Money being siphoned from American taxpayers, from working families, from struggling citizens who are now footing the bill for an ideological agenda that ignores financial sustainability. This is where the truth becomes unavoidable. The lie isn't just a single sentence she said. The lie is her entire worldview. The lie is the emotional illusion that you can demand limitless compassion through government spending without ever confronting how much it costs or who ends up paying for it. The lie is pretending that sanctuary city policies exist in a vacuum where consequences vanish just because activists shout louder than accountants. Byron Donalds exposes all of this with a single devastating strategy. He asks, how much did it cost? And for politicians like Tlaib, that question is like sunlight to a vampire. They thrive in emotional darkness, where facts are vague and accountability is optional. But when someone forces them into the light of fiscal reality, they have no answer. So what do? They escalate emotionally. They scream, they interrupt, they pivot to accusations. They weaponize identity politics. And when time runs out and their argument collapses, they are cornered by the truth just as she was once physically dragged out when theatrics overpowered order. That's the metaphorical outcome here. Her ideology cannot withstand logic. And when confronted with numbers rather than narratives, the emotional activist act falls apart.
Random, walking out of the facility. And when I went over to question the bus driver that was transporting these kids, border agents told me, as a member of Congress, that you're not allowed to question the bus driver. And of course, people knowing me, I didn't take no for an answer, and I repeated the question. And I was told that this bus of children was leaving El Paso and going to San Diego. And so what was occurring under the Biden administration is that they were busing unaccompanied minors all across the United States for one reason and one reason only. And that was because they did not want the press to see the pictures of kids in cages. They did not want to see our borders being overrun. They wanted to disperse that problem all through the United States. That is the reckless history of illegal immigration under Joe Biden and the Democrat Party. Mayor Johnston of Denver, yes, you lamented earlier that there were 10 to 11 buses coming per day to your city. Did you ever talk to Joe Biden about why this was happening to your community?
Thank you, Congressman. I both reached out to Governor Abbott from Texas. He didn't respond, and I did.
Why would you reach out to Governor Abbott of Texas when it is Joe Biden, the former commander-in-chief, that opened up our borders? Why didn't you talk to him?
Well, our buses directly were being sent from Governor Abbott in Texas, so that was why we reached out to say we're happy to collaborate on a coordinated entry system. We understand no one state or no one city should bear the entire brunt of this, but let's collaborate. But I did.
So I'm glad you said that, because that brings me to my next point. Governor Abbott and Governor DeSantis, when they started moving illegal aliens out of their states who were bearing the brunt of what Joe Biden and Kamala Harris were doing, and they've sent them to Denver, they sent them to Chicago, they sent them to New York, they sent them to Martha's Vineyard. The reason why they did that is because you four could hide behind the realities of illegal immigration on border towns all through our country and on cities and states who did not want to see illegal immigration, but did not have the political representation to go to the White House. And only when it showed up on your doorstep did you get upset. Mayor Johnston, coming back to you, how much did your city spend on illegal immigration? Do you have a round number?
Over the last couple of years on all newcomers, whatever their status was, it's around $79 million since 2022.
79 million. Mayor Johnson, Chicago. How much has the city of Chicago spent on illegal immigration?
If you're referring to the 2022 up to 2024 of the buses coming from Texas, roughly the same percentage of the state of Texas, about 1% of our overall budget.
What is that? Because we don't have the city's budget in front of me. Numbers.
It's 1%, and if you want the actual calculation, we can make sure someone.
You're the mayor. You don't have the math in front of you.
It's 1% of the overall budget over the
All
last
right, that's
4
why
years,
you're a failing
which
mayor.
is
Mayor
the same
Adams,
number that
how
was
much did
sent
the city
from us
of New
from
York
the
actually
state
spend
of
on
Texas.
illegal immigration? Mayor Johnson, I already asked you. You don't have a hard number, and if you don't have a hard number, you're not running your city well. Mayor Adams, how much did the city of New York actually spend on illegal immigration?
$6.9 billion of taxpayers' dollars.
$6.9 billion of taxpayer money on a problem that was fostered on the American people. Mayor Wu, in the city of Boston, how much did you spend?
We don't ask about immigration status and delivering city
You don't
services,
ask
so
about
we
how
don't
much
have
money
that
the city
number.
of Boston has spent on illegal immigration?
We
Are you
don't
out of your
distinguish
mind?
between immigration status.
Do you
as
manage
part
your
of our
budget
city
or not,
policies.
Mayor Wu?
That is how we keep
Mayor
our city
Wu,
safe.
do you manage
we
your
have
budget or
the
not?
numbers to prove it. I manage my budget. I have a AAA bond rating dating back 10 years.
So to the city of Boston,
budget.
just understand that your mayor does not care how much of your resources she has spent on people who are not citizens
The city of
the city
Boston
of
is
Boston.
sick of having
I'm
people
reclaiming my
outside
time.
Boston
Mr.
telling
Bear,
us what
Mr.
we
Bear, I have
need.
a question for you because I understand Cato's perspective when it comes to illegal immigration. I understand that the Cato Institute for a long time has had a standard of actually having open immigration into the United States. Generally speaking, I don't want to get into specifics.
We support legal immigration. We want immigration to be legal.
So let me ask you this question, because one of the great libertarians of the modern era, Milton Friedman, famously said, you can either have open borders or a welfare state, but you have to choose. Mr. Beer, what do you choose?
Milton Friedman said he wanted to allow illegal immigration to continue. I disagree with Milton Friedman's position on that. We should have legal immigration and build a wall around the welfare state, not around the country. That's in the best interest of taxpayers.
And I would argue that under the current system where you have sanctuary cities popping up, it is not possible to build that wall. So America
can.
has to
Absolutely you
choose,
can.
Mr. Beer, you're done. America has to choose between securing our nation or protecting the taxpayer. I choose secure the nation.
This is the battle playing out in America right now. Leaders like Byron Donalds who fight for fiscal responsibility, border security, and taxpayer protection versus ideologues like Rashida Tlaib who push radical talking points regardless of cost, consequence, or coherence. One side is grounded in accountability, while the other survives on outrage. One asks, how can we sustain this? While the other says, if you question it, you're a fascist. So now the question is on us. Who represents the future of governance in this country, the ones holding the receipts or the ones holding the megaphones? What do you think? Is Byron Donalds right to call this out and demand real accountability? Or should emotional theatrics continue to dominate over truth and consequences?